Nancy Hendrickson is the author of Ancestral Tarot and Ancestral Magic, as well as several books on genealogy and history. And in fact, Ancestral Tarot was just awarded Best Divination Book of 2021 by the World Divination Association. Nancy's a columnist for the Cartomancer magazine, writing about tarot and other forms of divination. She's also a lifelong student of both tarot and genealogy. And Nancy, I'm so glad you're here with us today. Welcome.
Lisa, I have been looking forward to this so much because it's talking about the two things I love most in life, genealogy and tarot.
Absolutely. You and I share a passion in genealogy. I mean, I would even call it an obsession, if I'm being honest.
It can be.
Well, it's like solving a mystery, solving puzzles, and you follow these paper trails and you discover things about your people that you had no idea happened. And just somehow knowing these little bits of stories makes so much sense, and they light up the holes in your brain, and the ripple effect is astounding. For people who have not experienced this, I know it sounds a little bizarre, but those of us who have know exactly what I'm talking about.
And I don't think you can do ancestral work without being a detective at heart, because you are constantly, whether you're doing genealogy research or using tarot, you're building a story. And you're looking for the pieces that fit, because unlike you and I, a lot of people don't know family past their own parents, or they may not know their own parents if they're adopted. So tarot gives them that portal into the ancestors. And you and I are super lucky. You know, Lisa, I grew up in a family because I did know my grandparents. They had stories in their own memory banks that went back to the Civil War. And this is because my grandmother knew her grandfather who was in the Civil War. So my family held a history that went back 150, 160 years. So, you know, I was already back there. You know, I was way back there before I ever got started in tarot.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that even people who are adopted
Right.
can do this kind of work. Not only genealogy work, because adoptive families absolutely have an impact on your ancestral healing work, but by using the tarot, that way they can actually, you know, sort of tap into the field of information for the ancestors that they may never know.
Right. And, you know, as I've told people many times, if you're adopted, you may never know your family, your birth family, but they know you. And using tarot, you can make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know that there are people who are doing just genealogy research who might not even be aware of the phrase ancestral healing, but they're doing the work when they dive into their family's history. So I'm wondering, because you've got this genealogy passion, what was it that gave you the idea to connect your ancestors with the tarot?
You know, I've been doing literally genealogy stuff since I was about 8, and that's because of my family. And I got into tarot, I think, into maybe my late 20s. And my whole life I have spent combining the two. And it never occurred to me that other people didn't. And so when I proposed that idea to my publisher, who was also a genealogy person, like, to her, it made perfect sense. Oh my God, there's this whole field of tarot research we've never thought about. And you ask about why. I got into tarot as a healing modality. And so I've seen over the years, tarot is such a healing impact on people who have real major issues with their family of origin. They may have been emotionally or physically abused. They may have been gaslighted. They may have been told they're never good enough. I mean, the list goes on. And if they can use tarot to skip back 2 generations, 3 generations, they find people in spirit who love them, who want them to be happy. and the healing that takes place, I mean, I'm getting chills right now. The people I talk to who really are finding peace with the family is just amazing. And it's like, that's the reward for this work for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things that I really love about your work, your book, by the way, I have a copy of the
Yeah.
book and I love it. One of the things I love most about the book is that, and I know I'm not the only one who's like this, while I love the tarot and I've got 1,000 decks, I personally have difficulty in memorizing the meanings of all the cards and doing the full spread. It just, while I appreciate the beauty in the tool, it just doesn't really click for me. So I'm wondering, for those of our viewers who are maybe in the same boat or have never even picked up a deck, can they use the tarot without knowing how?
Oh, absolutely. Let me give you an example. If you went to a medium to hopefully channel one of the beloved dead, the medium may not, they will see symbols. Okay. So maybe they see a symbol of red shoes. Well, they don't know what that means, but you may know that your mother loved watching The Wizard of Oz and Dorothy's red shoes, or your mother loved red shoes, or, I mean, the medium can see the symbol. You are the one to interpret it. So in a tarot card, I actually pulled a couple tarot cards. I just want to show you one. This is the 10 of Wands, and can you see it's a guy loaded down? So you may think, oh, wow, that guy's really works too hard. Or you may see this and say, oh my gosh, that's my Uncle Bill, who was a builder. So it's up to me to point out to you all the symbols on this card, but it's up to you to look at them and say, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. I know who that was because of the builder. Tarot is at its base a symbolic system. It is filled with all life experiences. And so it's really up to you when you look at a card. It doesn't matter if you know tarot at all. I'm just looking at one here. You may see this as the celebratory card, but you may see it and say, oh, wow, I know who that was. They drank too much. They're always drinking. So I hope I'm making myself clear that there are so many symbols on tarot cards. You don't have to know the card meanings. You can look at the symbol and know exactly what it means. So we're all gonna look at a guy sitting in a throne who looks really mean. You're gonna take it differently than I'm gonna take it because we have a different experience of authority figures. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we have the same take on authority figures. I don't know. But I hope I'm being clear on this.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also wondering then, I know many of us, when we're starting to begin using a new tool, there's a lot of self-doubt where you look at, as you mentioned, say you look at the 10 of Wands and an immediate thought comes into your mind like, oh, I know what that means. But then you start doubting, well, is that really what it meant? Or am I just making these things up? Or am I putting my wishful thinking onto the meaning behind this card?
Right. And that's so incredibly common. That is so common. And what I tell people is if you're going to do ancestral work using tarot or any means really, but using tarot, you really have to open yourself up to hearing messages coming through and to trust your intuition. Because, let's face it, go back 5 generations. You don't know that person. You might have read a little tiny bit about them, but you don't know who that is. You've got to trust that, okay, when I see that guy sitting there working, it means this. And it does require an incredible amount of trust in your own intuition. And, I have found that the ancestors are communicating with us constantly. We just don't pick it up because we don't trust that we're hearing it or we think we're making it up in our own heads, which I think is super common. But they're always sending messages. And I've seen this. I mean, my whole life I have seen this. And what people can do, Lisa, and I suggest this, is set up a little test. If you're hearing something and you think it's great grandma, say, okay, what sign should I look for? And I talk about this in the book, that my great grandmother did say, look for the $50. And it's like, when do you ever see a $50? Never, ever. And I was cleaning one day and there were two $50 I had stuck behind books. So it's like, oh, those are the $50. So set up that test, ask for a sign, and then be open to it.
Yeah. And I also like the way that, at least in my own personal experience, when I'm using a divination tool and I'm doubting or wondering, am I just making this up? It occurs to me that at this moment, it doesn't matter if these are solid facts. I've asked for an answer. I've made a specific point of connecting with specific, energy fields, my loving ancestors who want to help guide me. If this is the answer that's coming to me at this moment, even if it's not grounded in solid, provable fact, this is what they wanted me to know right now, or that information wouldn't have come through.
Right,
do you agree
exactly.
with that?
Oh, yeah, I do agree with that, because you can sit down with your cards and say, I really want to connect with my great grandfather 3 times back. Maybe your great grandfather 3 times back is off doing something else. I trust that the person comes through that I need to most connect with, and with the message I most need to hear. And again, it's just, it's a trust thing. And the more you work with the ancestors, the easier it becomes to trust and to hear the message.
Thanks for listening. Check out Castle Gate, a novel based on my own ancestral healing journey, at lisabonis.com. In 1921, 4 men set off from Scotland to the United States. Will Garrock, his brother Pete, his son Willie, and his nephew Thomas, all coal miners. They left behind the miners' rows and the nationwide mining strike with its soup kitchens. Their destination was Castlegate, Utah, where they had kin to welcome them before sending for their wives and children. They prospered in America, working in one of the finest mines in Utah. Until that tragic day, March 8th, 1924. Disaster struck. 3 explosions, trapping 171 men inside. Rescue crews worked tirelessly for days, but sadly, they could not save a soul. Women were widowed and children were orphaned, and some never recovered from their broken hearts. Castlegate is the true and tragic saga of a Scottish family whose dreams of finding their fortunes in the bountiful coal mines of Castlegate, Utah during the Prohibition era explode in one of the most devastating mine disasters in American history. Learn more at lisabonis.com.